All right, we should be live. I think. Let's see here. There we go. So if you were around at any time earlier, I actually accidentally went live earlier today, and man, I haven't had. Here we go. Haven't been on the live stream in a bit, so I can't remember how to do all this stuff. I accidentally went live earlier today, and the whole live stream is me going testing. Oh no, because I realized it was trying to Mark. Hey, how are you? I realized earlier it was trying to go live when I didn't want it to go live, and that was a little bit of a mishap. So if you guys were on that live stream earlier today, I hope that you got a good laugh. Otherwise, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I was using the live streaming software to do a screen record. But because of that, I started thinking, hey, Pete, what's up, buddy? Started thinking, why not do a live stream and actually get out there and say hi to the peeps that I haven't seen in a little bit. So Pete being one of them. What's up, dude? Ours, first live for you. It's been a while. I'm assuming you're saying this is the first live stream that you've been on of mine. But I really have I have some things that I could talk about, but I have no agenda necessarily for this live stream. I just want to jump on and see how many people would jump on and say hi. So Suzanne, Pete, hey, good seeing you guys. Alan, what's up, buddy? Oh man, getting the band back together. Happy 2019. Thanks, Pete. I appreciate that. Happy 2019 New Year to you as well. I just got done. I don't know if hold on, let me see where my framing is. I don't know if you can see all of this over here. I just got done re-recording for the 4th time my video on DSLR video or film scanning. So I haven't looked at any of the footage. Hopefully it turned out. I can't make any promises, but yeah, we I recorded it yesterday morning and then re-recorded it yesterday evening and then re-recorded it today, and then partway through the recording my phone that I use for audio recording ran out of space partway through the recording because I had all of the other recordings on it. Then I had to delete all that footage, not all of it, but I had to restart the whole recording again. So it was quite the adventure. I'm hoping that all the footage is solid and ready to go for that video. I know a lot of you guys have been asking for that video for quite some time. Suzanne says, I love your channel. Back into film after a long hiatus. Oh, that's fantastic. I really appreciate hearing that. Both that, one, you love the channel, so thank you so much for the kind words. But then two, that you're back to shooting film. Suzanne, what are you shooting? 35mm, medium format, black and white, color? Give us some details. DJ says, Happy New Year, all. Happy New Year. Travis, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you out there. Let's see here. John Roberts. Man, it really is like a reunion. What time is it? 6:45. So yeah, it's about the same time that we used to do the 2-Minute Tuesday live stream. So that makes sense on why so many of you guys are over here. I should actually give me 1 second. I'm gonna pop over onto to Instagram and let people know that we did decide doing a live stream would be a thing today. Think live stream. There we go. Great. All right. Let's see who else is out there. It says downtown in Oregon for a women's rally. Cold. Have to go shortly. Oh, I bet it is cold over there. This morning it was -2 degrees up here in Michigan. Pretty crazy. Suzanne says color 35mm. Just bought an Olympus OM2. That's fantastic. What lens are you using on there? Alex, what's up, buddy? Alex is a local around here. Alex and I are about to do a print exchange. Is that a Blue Yeti? Yes, it is. So I have a black Blue Yeti over here. One of them is distinguished as a different kind of Blue Yeti. And then I have the silver one over there, and I don't know if there's a difference between the two. One of them has a marking on it that the other one does not. I also have a blue Snowball over here. It was just, I happened to have all of this stuff, or All these happen to be in local pawn shops, so I was able to scoop them up for really cheap, and they work really well. So I'm very happy with them. We actually got the multiple because Emily and I were originally trying to step out and make a podcast, which we had done the pilot episode. We had recorded part of the second episode, but due to schedule and conflict, then that way, we just never followed through on the project. So maybe someday. 50 millimeter 1.8, nice. The Olympus 50 millimeter is a super sharp lens. I actually have one up on a OM. I think it's a OM 10. I have a couple OM bodies up there that are broken. So if anybody knows how to fix OM bodies, hit me up. I'll send it over to you to see if you could get it working. Do you do any darkroom printing? Yes, I do. Actually, I have in front of me a whole bunch of darkroom scraps ripped up because of prints that didn't work out. I've been using them for scrap paper. But I have a couple different darkroom prints that I've done recently. I've been printing in the darkroom for, I don't know, a year and a half. I don't even know. Here, trying to think. I started last August, maybe even before that. Not last August, 2 Augusts ago. So about a year and a half. So yeah, I do darkroom printing. Not as much as I would like. I have the Canon Pixma Pro over here, so I do a lot of inkjet printing as well. I love the Hanamule paper, but both have their place. So as often as I could get into the darkroom, I try to get in there. About a year and a half. Thanks, buddy. John pays attention. He's a guy that you could rely on to know details. Nice, so cool. I love it so far. I bet. Suzanne, I think you're into the OM2 is a fantastic camera. So don't get caught up in the whole idea of you need more cameras or anything. I strongly suggest that as you're getting back into film, just take that camera and push it to its furthest that it could possibly ever be pushed. That makes sense. It is it's been a long day over here. I've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning. So if I start to not make sense, just roll with it and just go, yeah, Nick, that makes a lot of sense. Alex says, love the Pixma printer. Yes, it's fantastic. I absolutely love the prints that it gives. And the Hanamule paper, I cannot suggest enough. I absolutely love the Hanamule paper. Mark says, just picked up a old Miopta Opemas 3 35mm and 6x6 enlarger today. So much other stuff to buy now. Nice, that's exciting. Look around. I don't know if you're in the States, but look around on Craigslist. I'm sure you could find all the other things that you need. It's pretty simple to come across people that are just trying to get rid of their stuff. So that's exciting. Good luck on your whole endeavors into the darkroom. It's a lot easier than a lot of people make it out to be, but at the same time, getting it really honed in and tweaked down and getting good prints can be a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. So throw in some jazz, throw in some blues, throw in whatever music that you listen to, and just get in there and put some paper through. Let's see here. Trav says, are you working on any zine projects that you can talk about? So yes, just not up. Yes. So a couple zine projects that I'm working on. First of all, right here is a whole packet of prints that I'm working through the Montana work that I was posting up earlier this year. I shot the entire project for this zine. It's actually a 2-zine part, and I actually might take the official part. This is the official like zine or book. And I actually have a place that I'm reaching out to see if we could actually move forward on making my first authentic book. And I really want it to be that project. So the project's called The Last Best Place. That's the project that I made all on film on my way out to Montana. In Montana, I spent a whole week out there with 40 leaders from the ministry that I run, and we spent that time out there, and I had a ton of time to be able to walk around and just reflect and be able to photograph. And I made a body of work that I cannot even begin to describe how excited I am about. So that's coming together as a zine project. Like I said, I have the initial prints out. I just need to go through the sequencing and really wrap my head around the design aspect of it. But that's also going to depend on whether or not I'm going to be moving forward with this company on making an actual book. It'll also come, whether it's a book or a zine, it will also come with a second zine or a mini zine of work that I shot on the way home from that trip. I ran out of film the last day out there. And then I shot another body of work that I'm extremely, extremely proud of. It's a very slightly abstract body of work, very much in line with a lot of the other work that I did, but it's another body that is just near and dear to my heart. So that's called 48 Hours Home, talking about the long trip home. Once again, it was a 2-day trip. It was full of I mean, if you could picture a van full of 12 people traveling for 48 hours while there's three other vans that also have, you know, a multitude of people in them. The interesting you know, experience of long travel with that many people, but at the same time, creating that body of work during that whole time really expedited the process and gave me some stuff to chew on when I got back. So those are two projects, but then there's also another project that I made another video today talking about, that my Patreon page. You know, I set out on Patreon last year with hopes of really making it kind of a community conversational page. And a couple things happened. First of all is I fell short on the interaction with the community. Anytime somebody would ask a question or anything on there, I would be diligent in answering, but trying to come up with content for the patron page was always kind of a hassle. And then I would throw some of the content out there, and depending on what hour I would put it out there, not everyone would see it, and it was just kind of a whole ordeal that way. To where I've really been reassessing what the Patreon page could be, and the big thing that I'm moving forward on 2019, and I can do this and I will do this, and I'm very excited to do this, is mini like limited edition zine runnings. So the whole idea would be, and it starts next month. So if you want to be a part of this, you would have to be signed up by the end of this month over on patreon.com/nickexpose. But the whole point of this project is taking smaller projects that aren't necessarily like a My Kind of Town zine or a Sketches of Light zine or something, you know, a little bit larger, but stuff that I really want to work with and really want to sequence and build small, maybe short stories or little poetry, like poetic flips of you know, 8 to 12 images, which is very much a zine. I'm not saying that that's not a zine, but it's not the typical zine that I make. But being able to go through and work through smaller projects that either one, I don't know if I want to bring to a larger place, or two, I feel are in a complete state in their smaller, you know, tighter grouping of images. Anyway, I want to make these little, you know, special edition zines to where, let's say by the end of January, we have 25 to 30 people signed up at the zine level or higher over on Patreon. Then I'm only going to print, you know, 26, because I'm going to print myself one as well, 26 zines, as well as a fine art print that's going to go with them. You know, sorry, I'm ranting on about this, but it's really exciting for me because it's a way to, one, be able to show an in-depth creative process, because I can make more of these micro zines that are special edition, that somebody had to be at a zine level. It means you've partnered with the channel, you've partnered with me at a level that I want to partner with you and show you a little bit behind the veil of some of the other projects that other people haven't seen. Some of these projects, like the one that's going out in February, a large majority of the work has not been shared. And I don't even know if it will be shared apart from this zine. The project that's going out in February is called The Castle Off of 96, or Castle Off of I-96, one of the two. And it's based off of this one image that was really the, you know, we talk about point of departure, but it was really the point of departure for the rest of the series. And I have other, you know, image series like this that I really want to work out. Or it's also, you know, what may become a larger zine project may start off in smaller zine portions, right? To where I do a 12 to 15 image, you know, micro zine for this select group of people and use them as kind of a testing pool to go, hey, what are you guys' initial thoughts on this, to be able to develop a project even further. So to wrap all this whole story up is zines that I'm working on. There's these micro zines that I'm working on that are going to be specifically for the Patreon crowd to, one, give them that extra bonus feature within Patreon, but then two, to have a very honed in specific group of people that I could test some of these ideas off of. Zine formats. I want to do an accordion zine format. I have a couple other zine formats rolling around in my head. So that's the whole project idea, is apart from the large book project and zine projects that will go out to the mass crowds, that 250 prints will be made, and, that kind of thing. These are more, closer, maybe more vulnerable projects in a way to where maybe they aren't fully developed, but it's actually going out and it's showing the process of everything. They'll be developed enough, but anyway, yes. Let's see here. We'll take your advice. I wanted something totally different from my D750. Yes. You're in the UK. Okay, so anything maybe a Craigslist equivalent, you might be able to find some sort of darkroom equipment, things out there. Also, Mark, if you hit me up over on Instagram, I could post up on my Instagram and see if anybody has any spare equipment around out in the UK. I have a lot of friends out in the UK, so if anybody could partner with you out there and help you out, I would love to get that thing rolling. So hit me up on Instagram and I'll see what I can do for you. John says, I'm watching Paw Patrol with my daughter. Have an earbud in for this. Nice. I don't even know what Paw Patrol is, but sounds like an amazing kids movie. I have an OM4, and the tiny little 100mm f2.8 is an amazing lens. Yeah, that's the amazing thing. For being an SLR setup, I found that the Olympus lenses are just micro in size. The whole setups are just tiny. They work really well for being very compact. Paul, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you out there. I can't wait to see the zine or book. The travel book sounds awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's, I was talking to Jeffrey Sidoris. If you guys are familiar with On Taking Pictures and Process Driven and Iterations, all these different podcasts that Jeffrey Sidoris is on. We were talking the other day, and it was in talking to him that I started to realize what was really going on with this project. Just before I went out to Montana. In fact, it wasn't until the day I got out in Montana that I actually seen Emily for the first time in 5 weeks. I guess I shouldn't say the first time. We had seen each other a couple times throughout the 5 weeks, but there's 5 weeks during the summer that Emily was at an artist residency for 2 weeks and then up north teaching for 3 weeks. Just amazing opportunities that were just a huge, huge blessing for both of us, and especially for her career. But at the same time, it was very, very difficult on me to be away from my wife for that long. If you guys are familiar with the love languages, my love language is physical touch. So even though I could get a phone call in or a FaceTime in with Emily, I wasn't able to actually, hug her, hold her, like lay up against her when we're sleeping at night. Just these little things that you don't think about when your spouse is there all the time. So when she wasn't there, it was just, I went into a large depression, and it was actually part of the reason why I stepped away from making videos for a while, because I was just really grappling with a whole lot of things last summer. And it became kind of a dark time for me. Not that anything bad was happening. It was all great stuff. It was just, I was wrestling through this idea of being apart from my wife for so long. It sounds very, I don't know what it sounds like, but anyway, it was a reality for me. And I disconnected from online quite a bit to reconnect with a lot of friends from church and from around, and just kind of get that face-to-face interaction with people. But like I said, it wasn't until I got out into Montana that Emily was back from her teaching gig. So she got done teaching the day that I left to travel, and then she flew out to meet us out in Montana. And through that whole process, Montana was amazing. You know, here's the time that I was getting to reunite with my wife, if you could say it that way. And there was just a lot of mixture of emotions that were going on. I just came out of this really dark place of kind of depression because my spouse was just traveling, you know. And then there's also this you know, just high of being able to see my wife again and being able to hold her in my arms and actually get that physical touch that I needed. And so there's this well of emotions that were going on, you know, while I was making these images. So they're actually quite dark and gloomy, but at the same time they encapsulate quite a bit of hope. You know, there's a lot of stuff that excites me, that gets me very happy and excited when I look at these, yet they still hold on to the, you know, the depressive state that I had just gotten done walking through. So I think it's a really unique project that holds kind of a wealth of emotions that a lot of my other projects probably don't. And it's really unique, and I'm keeping that in mind to a certain extent as I'm going through and as I'm sequencing the work and as I'm putting the body of work together. I think it's a very vulnerable project to put out there because it is cataloging a portion of 2018 that I was really wrestling with, that I was really going through quite a bit of just emotional change. But at the same time, it's a project that I look back on and I'm really excited about. So here, sounds like an awesome project. Can't wait. And I have to join your Patreon. Yes, please do. Thank you. I'm actually, if you go over there, just realize that I'm changing some of the verbiage on some of these tiers. Moving into 2019. So that's probably a project for tomorrow or the next day. I'm going to be sitting down and kind of changing some of the tiers. I'm also removing there's a $50 tier on there that is a 1-hour coaching call. And I'm just realizing that I went in with good intentions on the coaching calls, and I've really enjoyed the ones that I've been able to do. But at the same time, just the different time zones and trying to work with people over in Paris, trying to work with people in California, trying to work with people in, you know, Pacific Northwest or all over the world, it just makes for very difficult scheduling capabilities, especially when my schedule is already so tight. So I'm removing that, unfortunately, because I really do enjoy that portion of Patreon of being able to sit down and help someone see a goal, see a project to completion. But at the same time, I just want to be realistic with people. My schedule right now just is not allowing for it. And unfortunately, I've dropped the ball for one of our patrons, Alex, who's been faithful in that tier for months now, but just due to all sorts of stuff, I don't want to make excuses. I've just dropped the ball. So I'm realizing that that's not a feasible tier for me to uphold at this point. The other ones are the same. They'll just be kind of tweaked and shifted to add perks that are a little bit more geared towards getting things in people's hands. Hey, Hannah, good seeing you out there. Now we have the whole crew back. All right. Pete says, Suzanne, I'm thinking, or I think metering and shooting in Mahal will be fine. Sunny 16 is your best friend. Yes, Sunny 16 is. You could also use external light meter. By the way, some other people that are jumped on. Nicole, hi. That's the only other name that I haven't said hi to yet. Here. Suzanne says, I was using the Sunny 16 with the OM1, but was a little excited about the aperture priority to help me move a little bit more quickly. A lot of people saying hi to everyone, which I love. I was watching my brother play Far Cry recently, which is set in Montana. Looks stunning even in virtual form. That's cool. It's amazing. I didn't know that Far Cry was set in Montana. The Montana landscape really is a absolutely gorgeous landscape. We stayed on a ranch. It was a private ranch that the amount of land that these people own is just ridiculous. They literally own a mountain range, which just blows my mind. I can't. I'm in an apartment. I can't even fathom owning a house right now, let alone a mountain range, right? So, but they built the whole land, not the whole land, but a portion of the land to be able to house like college groups and church groups and stuff. So they can house 40 different people in all these different bunks that they have, and then we could go off and explore their land. They have a legitimate gold mine. It's not, you wouldn't want to go into it yet because it hasn't been used in years, but they have a legitimate gold mine on the actual like mountain range, which is amazing to think. Like, again, I can't even fathom owning a mountain range, let alone a mountain range that is known to have gold in it. Blows my mind. But it was just amazing to just really go around and search out the landscape, and just amazing. So beautiful, beautiful stuff. Anybody out there, if you're looking for a place to go, Montana would be an amazing place. South Dakota, we traveled through South Dakota to get over there. We stopped at Mount Rushmore, and just all of that area over there is just absolutely stunning. Driving through the Badlands, driving through, all the spires that are up. It's incredible. So I highly, highly suggest it. We went to this place called Lake Agnes, and I actually, while we were up there, 2 of our leaders actually got engaged, and I photographed the engagement. And what it is you climb a mountain. Legitimately, you're climbing up a mountain for, I shouldn't say climb, you're walking up a mountain, but it's pretty steep. For about an hour and a half, and when you get to the top of this valley of this mountain, there's actually a lake over there, and it's a beautiful, beautiful lake. It's just like, if you can imagine paradise, that's exactly what it is. So you get done, and you're like 30 minutes in, you're wondering if it's worth it. An hour in, you're wondering if it's worth it. Hour and 25, you're about to turn around and go back, and then an hour and 30, you hit the top, and you just look out at this vista of lake and other mountains behind it, and there's mountains up the side of it, and it's just absolutely stunning. So there was a dock up there to where people will run and jump off of, and I photographed the couple up on the dock, but it was just an incredible experience. So anybody that gets out there, check out Lake Agnes. It's amazing. Pete says, you're an inspiration to us single photographers looking for love. That's so sweet, Nick. Emma's a lucky girl. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. I'm a lucky guy, honestly. Emily and I are, we're definitely made for each other. I've never had a significant other, a girlfriend that has ever been interested in photography or art or anything like that. So to find a spouse, to find a wife that is, 1, an amazing artist, a much better artist than myself, and then 2, just someone who supports, my creative endeavors. Emily, actually, just so you guys know, for the 4 months that that I wasn't making videos, Emily was actually getting on me, like, you got to make videos. These guys, like, people like your videos. Even when I was like, depressed and wrestling through things, she's like, no, baby, like, people love your videos. You got to get out there and make them. So she's fighting for them as well. Here. So sorry you had to go through it, but it says a lot about you that you missed her so deeply. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, there's a long backstory to the hurts and wounds that I had in other relationships in the past that start to creep in, even though there's no logical reason for those to creep in, because Emily's a completely different person than any of my past relationships. But the torment that just comes in, the mind games that just get playing, it's I don't know, it's a crazy thing. But the camera is a big coping mechanism for me. It allows me to actually work out those emotions, work out those thoughts, even when I don't necessarily understand it in the moment. I'm still working it out, through the lens, and it ends up showing in the end result. And then I could start looking back and start approaching these emotions, these feelings, these thoughts, all the different fears, anything like that, from a completely different place. And I don't know, the camera is so therapeutic in that way, to where it really allows you to dive into thoughts and ideas that you may not have otherwise dove into. So again, that's just another thing that I'm excited about that project, because it's just pouring all of that into it and just offering that in a vulnerable way to the rest of the world. So Mike says, which by the way, hey Mike, I don't know if I said hi to you yet. What do you use for project management organization? I don't really use much. I use sticky notes and my notes app on my, I use Google Drive Notes. So I keep like a long list of ideas on there. Project management wise, I don't necessarily know that I have a really good rhythm on that. In fact, I'm like, I had to work as an admin assistant for a couple years a while back, and I was just terrible at it. And my position now, thank God, is not anything administrative wise. And I have an admin assistant to keep me on point for these things, because I can think on a project that I'm working on in the moment. Like I can picture maybe 3 projects down and go, okay, I need to do this one, which will lead into that one, which will lead into that one. And I can walk forward that way. But once it gets to like 15 different projects or something like that, or long-term projects, I'm just not good at that. So that's why I have the admin assistant at work, and she does an amazing job at keeping me just, you know, on task and on detail, and like, hey, don't forget, we have this coming up, so you need to be doing this. And as soon as I know that I need to be doing it, that's when I do it. But I'm not the greatest person to ask on that, unfortunately, Mike, because I just don't have a system. Maybe if I had a good system, if you have a system to suggest, maybe it would make me a little bit better. But I've tried a couple different things, and so far, I just dropped the ball that way. Andrew says, hey, Nick, it's good to see you again. Really missed the TMT. Thank you so much. Honestly, I've missed them as well. I don't necessarily know when the TMT is going to be branded differently, like I said in the last couple of episodes of 2 Minute Tuesday, but I don't know when that platform is going to come back. I was just talking to somebody on Instagram earlier this week, to where I'm kind of thinking about making it a summer series. So I have summers off. I teach on a semester basis. So from September to May, every week I'm prepping and I'm teaching, and I just, you know, throughout the week, I just have a lot going on. So doing the 2 Minute Tuesday kind of idea doesn't necessarily work with my workflow right now, but I do have summers off. So I might be able to work it into a summer series, and maybe we do, you know, June, it'd be middle of May through August, you know, and doing that kind of instance of that's a season. Maybe we dive into a very specific topic per season, and we go at it that way. One of the big things that I'm really keeping in mind as I come back into YouTube is making it a sustainable process. I'm not trying to promise too much. I'm not trying to bite off too much. I'm trying to make it a system that I can carry on, that making the videos are a little bit more easy, schedule wise, not necessarily easy as in production wise, because I'm trying to up the production value, but not as many videos as what it was. But anyway, long story short, Andrew, thank you. I really do appreciate the kind words that you're saying there. Paul says, I feel like going anywhere different from what you're used to can be incredibly inspiring, for me anyways. One of my biggest photo goals is to travel more this year. I completely agree. Last year, 2018, was a much different year for me. Majority of my work, project-wise, was shot either in Montana, in Chicago, or in New York. And I made multiple different trips throughout the year. I made a trip to New York at the very beginning of the year, actually the end of 2017. And then Chicago in the spring, and then Chicago again later in the spring, and then New York in the spring, and then Montana, and then we went up to most of my photography last year, apart from personal, like stuff of my nieces, stuff of Emily, stuff of my students. I'm building actually a cool thing that I'm doing for my 12 students that I have right now, or 9 students that I have right now. Is I'm putting together a zine of their whole semester. So all the different experiences. They went up to the cabin that we went up to, and all the different trips that I did in the end of the year was with those guys. So was cataloging that whole thing, and I'm gonna kind of build a whole zine kind of project around that to be able to hand to them when they, graduate from the program that they're going through. Um, but anyways, long story short, again, is just majority of my work last year was done on travel, and there's so many different projects that I'm really excited about because of it. Just it's change of pace, right? I don't see Montana type landscapes in Grand Rapids, Michigan, right? I also don't see New York type cityscapes in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I love Grand Rapids. I love to catalog and approach it time and time again, but at the same time, that refresher of getting out there and seeing something different is a huge thing. So I highly suggest making it a large part of your budget. In fact, I would say that most photographers should stop buying more gear and start buying more tickets to travel. Crab says, happy to catch you on your live stream, but I gotta go. It's getting late. See you, buddy. Jealous listening to those mountain descriptions. Very much what I go for. I've got the camera in my hand. Yes, it was it was amazing. Just very unique. I could actually, let me see here, if there's any. These are all very flat prints because it's just crappy little paper that I had done. But I posted up some of these on Instagram. But a lot of my shape studies and different things like that. Beautiful lake that was at the bottom of the valley that we were staying at. There is an amazing chapel that was built on the highest part of the land. That just incredible. It had like a little movie theater in it. It had a schoolhouse in the back, but everything was so just old school and just amazingly like timeless. From I don't know what you would expect. I mean, it's upkept. It's not run down like you might expect walking out onto a Montana landscape, but just absolutely gorgeous. A lot of stuff with individuals off in the distance, people that were walking. We did a lot of just time by ourselves, to where like here again you could see someone sitting off into the field. Did just a lot of that stuff. This one's actually Emily walking away from the chapel. Another one of Emily. These ones, some of these might not make it into the zine, but just some of the spires. This one's from a place called Humbug Spires. Another place that we went to. This one is, if you could see up in the top here, is the drawing a blank. Somebody posted up. I don't. Hold on. Let me see if somebody's helping me. What are these guys called? I can't even. I said it a minute ago. Anyway, the faces and the stones. I feel like complete Mount Rushmore. Thank you. Nobody said it yet, or maybe somebody hasn't posted it yet. Mount Rushmore. So just some different. I don't know. There's a burnt up field of trees as we were traveling. Just stuff that. Thank you. There's Paul on it. Whole Mount Rushmore thing. Like I said, a lot of this stuff is super low contrast because this paper is very matte, but just some of these different things that will build this project, this beautiful like row of clouds that are just resting on top of the mountain, mimic the road in front of all these houses. There's just repetition of pattern there. So I don't know, the lonely cloud, kind of a ode to Cortege, his lonely cloud. No building, but a mountain. There's Mount Rushmore as well. Some fun stuff. Here's a fun one. This is one of our crew. Just I don't know what the heck he was doing, but it made for a good photo. It's much darker on the computer, so there's much more contrast, and it would be much more contrasty when printing. But those are just some things that I'm working through and trying to sequence. So to give you guys a little bit of a behind the scenes. Mike says, that's true, Paul. Also, I find that when I shoot at my friend's town or city, that they find normal and bland are unique and intriguing to me. Things that they find normal and bland, yes. So yeah, it's always good to change up your perspective. It's always interesting too, because when you change up your perspective, or when you see something in a new way, somewhere else, and then you come back to a place that you might have, you know, walked the streets 100 times. You start to see things different again. It starts to influence the way and inform the way that you're approaching your own city. So I think that both kind of play hand in hand. Bruno, hey. All the all the different names of people. Here we go. Mike says, I find that Google Drive is a great with access anywhere. Inspired, I still carry a 3x5 notebook. I carried a small little notebook for a while as well. And then I had one of those space pens that you could write in any kind of direction. I ended up losing it. I don't know what happened to it. I don't lose things, so I know that it has to be around here somewhere. I just don't know where it is. So when I lost that pen, I stopped carrying the notebook and I just went over to Google Drive for everything. Gil Wanderers, hey, good seeing you out there. Any advice for someone who's stuck? I've been on and off and I'm trying to find the fuel again. So that's a good question. I've probably answered it multiple different ways in the past. The big thing that I'm on right now, as far as, you know, getting unstuck or finding inspiration or however you want to label it, a big thing that I would say is stop looking at photography. You know, if you've been looking at photography and you've been finding that you've been getting stuck, it's probably because you're comparing yourself to other people, or you're just cutting yourself down, or something like that. That at least is what I tend to do. So if you actually go over to other hobbies that you have, if you like soccer, go play soccer. If you like video games, go play video games. If you like reading or music, I highly suggest really broadening your expanse for the things that you're introducing into your life. Jay Maisel has a quote where he says, if you want to take more interesting photos, then become a more interesting person. And a big part of that is, you know, stop looking at photos. We're not going to become interesting people because we've looked at Cortege, because we looked at Bresson, because we've looked at Elliot Erwitt. Those are great things. They definitely inform process. But at the same time, you become a more interesting person by doing more interesting things, you know? Go bungee jumping, go read a novel that you wouldn't have normally read, watch a movie that you wouldn't have normally read, watch the behind the scenes on movies, get into, you know, recently I've been very informed by collecting watches and watching a whole bunch of stuff and informing myself on the whole horology and watch history. A lot of watches that I cannot afford, and my watch collection is more than humble because it's all just cheap timepieces. But at the same time, like, just diving into that whole thing gives me a different aspect to be able to approach things on. And I can't tell you how many times I've been listening to a song. It just happened today as I was listening to my Bill Evans station on Pandora. There was a couple songs that came on that had titles that I screenshotted. I think that's a word. That started informing thought process of, oh, I love that title. What if I photographed this? It would really play to that title. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've watched watch videos where it sounds weird of how the heck would watches inspire your creative process, but all of a sudden I see something, or I hear something, or I hear about the heritage on something, and it just sparks something inside of me. So what I would say is, if you're stuck, then just stop focusing on photography. You don't have to do photography every moment of your life. You know, take a month off and go and press into other things. And when something clicks, you'll want to pick the camera back up, and you'll have that much more intention. You'll have that much more motivation going into it. So, like I said, I've probably answered that a couple different ways in the past, but right now, my current train of thought, that's kind of the big one for me, is really kind of diving into other areas of not even necessarily creativity, just other areas of life. Photography is really about the life that's in front of the camera, or, you know, the wonder that's in front of the camera, or the wonder and all that's behind the camera. But those things are influenced by, one, getting in front of really interesting life, or two, getting really interesting perspectives. Those are the two things that lead to more interesting photos and lead to having inspiration and, you know, whatever you want to call it, creative drive bubble up inside of us. So which I'm glad that you asked that, because I've never said the two things, in front of the lens and behind the lens, and that might become a video at some point. Suzanne says, I'm creating my first zine. I heard you on a podcast and immediately was curious. So exciting. That's fantastic. Congrats. Good luck on the zine. I'm working on one as well. Pete, nice. I think you guys are already asking about what the zines themes are, so I look forward to reading those here in a second. Mike says, Gil, fellow photographer, follow a fellow photographer and try to see through their eyes. Be an interesting one as well. Suzanne says, Gil, when I'm stuck, I give myself new personal projects, something I haven't done before. That's a good one as well. That's a great way of saying it too, Suzanne. The big thing for me is when I'm going around and finding those other bits of inspiration from elsewhere, that's where the personal projects, at least for me, come in. So vice versa, they could go hand in hand, really. So that's a really great advice as well. Bruno says, me too, I'm waiting for a local print studio to give me prices. Nice. Man, I'm so excited to hear about zines that are happening. I also found that making idea dice work. Interesting. Those dice that have all sorts of different, facets on them and have different ideas, and then you roll them and there's two pairs on something. That's a really good idea. For me, it's hard to decide what to put in my first zine. Yeah, that could be a big thing. Not that I don't necessarily know that you're asking for advice, but I guess if I were to give any advice, it would be whatever the project is that's really, burning on your mind, the thing that you can't walk away from, the thing that you keep going back to and kind of, peeking at. You might scroll up on your Instagram feed and you're looking back at that one photo or those 4 photos and you're like, man, those are really still speaking to me. That would be the one that you'd want to move forward on for sure. Or start 2 or 3 different zines and see which one you finish first. That's a good way of going about it too. John says, hey, if people stop buying gear, I'm out of a job. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, John's all about telling people to buy more gear. Job security for him. He's a manager at a camera shop. Really cool. Pete says, mostly street photography and some urban landscapes, kind of torn with where I want to go with it. Nice. Pete, I'm excited to see where that turns out. Less gas, more in the gas tank. Paul, oh man, Paul, that's good. That's really good. Mike says, I find that when I ride my bike, I find more to shoot. That's interesting. Definitely gives you a new perspective. You're moving past things really fast. It makes me think about I think it was Yes Man, the movie with Jim Carrey, and they're like doing the jogging and shooting while they're jogging. It's all sorts of like blurry photos and stuff. Kind of makes me think of that. Alan says, interesting. What do you teach, Nick? Is it photography related? I'm an English language teacher myself outside of photography. Nice. What I teach is a little bit different. I teach at my church, and I actually teach our discipleship program. So just teaching people what it looks like to encounter the Lord. That's it. I meet with my students twice a week, and then we also see them at services. But it's an amazing bunch of I don't want to say kids, they're young adults, 18 to 25, and they're just absolutely amazing. It's not the standard kind of Bible teaching that you would think. It's a lot of what we call freedom concepts, where we're really walking people through previous hurts and wounds, stuff that they taken on in their childhood, and helping them to find freedoms. That way they can really, grip with who they actually are, who they were created and redeemed to be. So that's a big part of what I teach. And yeah, this is my second semester of teaching. Started the program. I came on at the church as an intern, and then I came on running our internships, and just wasn't going the way that I had always envisioned. So I created a whole new program. Luckily had a lot of leadership buy into it, and now we're walking with students. This is, like I said, the second program. We started the first one last January, which is also the reason why 2018 became very difficult for me to produce as many videos as I did in 2017. But I walked with 6 students the first time around, 9 students this time around. and then 3 of the students from the last program still kind of pop in from time to time. That's why I originally said 12 students for the current program. So in a nutshell, that's what I do, and I really love it. So kind of a discipleship pastor is kind of what they would call me. I think they were presidents or something, yes. So cool, Pete. I'm going to have some work in a local coffee shop in a few months, and for an opening night, I want to have a few of them for sale. For day one, I have been uber inspired by surf culture. Fantastic. Suzanne, that's awesome, and congrats on your show in the coffee shop. My first solo show was in a coffee shop, so I could definitely relate with you on that. So I'm doing one with surf stuff from Hawaii and then mountain images from here. Nice. That's amazing. Suzanne, I would love to see that when you get the project done. I'd love for you to send a link over to me. Paul took off. See you, Paul. I think he's already gone by now, but John says, hello, Nick. Wow. What's going on this evening? What a special occasion. Great pic. Thanks, buddy. I don't know what the pic's showing now. I think it's the same pic that I took a minute ago, but oh, maybe you're talking about those pictures over there. I don't know. Anyway, John, welcome. Glad to have you on here. It is a special occasion. I accidentally started a live stream earlier, so I decided why not actually do a live stream before the end of the night. It's been a while since we've done one of these. Let's see here. Ricardo says grease is good for getting unstuck. I think a different kind of unstuck. Mike says, I love the idea dice. Put your moods on a dice and locations on another, roll them and go find that mood in the location. That's amazing. Good advice for getting unstuck. Buddy, what's up, dude? If you guys don't know Jacob Murphy, you guys need to know him. Jacob Murphy Photo over on Instagram. And Jacob, you made a cameo appearance in the video that I recorded today. Just so you know, be on the lookout. That's how Jacob doesn't watch any of my videos anymore, so I have to put pictures of him in my videos to get him to watch them. So Jacob's one of my favorite people on the face of the planet, so I like to give him a hard time. Pete says, yeah, Suzanne, the zine sounds awesome. The surf culture is its own entity. I have redone my zine quite a few times. I'm just starting from scratch and putting a limit of photos I take. I hate it when it jumps. I found the photographer's playbook very inspiring. I actually just marked that. I don't know if I purchased it. I don't think I did, but I just marked it over on thriftbooks.com as a future purchase. So I was just interested in it. I thought it could probably be a good wealth of ideas. So I'm glad to hear somebody else in the community enjoyed it. Keeps me moving. A lot of great ideas. Nice. Nice conversations here. Making a zine too. Sergio, that's great to hear, man. What's your zine about? It's called Welcome Back. You already answered, so thank you. It's called Welcome Back, and it's photographs from my first time in the USA. I'm from Italy on a road trip with 2 friends in a car. That sounds amazing. I love road trips. I was just talking about it earlier, but that sounds absolutely amazing. So Sergio, when you get that done, hopefully you'll send me a link as well. I'd love to check it out. Let's see here. Blurb trade books for zines. Personally, I have a couple. I have a couple down here in my zine pile. If you're asking whether you should go with blurb, my last video up on the channel was all about going through a local print shop to get cheaper zines made. Blurb tends to be a little bit more pricey, even for their trade back books, unless you use the basic materials, which I have one zine in here that is actually kind of cool on the basic materials. It's all about Japan, and it's very, think of Daido Moriyama kind of stuff, very grainy, very gritty, very contrasty, and it almost looks like a comic book. And it's on, their basic, like, almost like newspaper print, a little bit heavier than newspaper print, but it's that kind of color. And it works well for it because it kind of looks like a comic book, and it's very Japanese and very inspired by that. But for the most part, most zines don't look good on that kind of paper and in that kind of context. So I don't know. You can go with blurb. I'm not saying don't go with blurb. I'm just saying maybe check out the last video to see some other options for getting some really nice prints done at a really good price. Pete says, do you plan to come to New York City again? Absolutely. New York City has become by far one of my all-time favorite places on the face of the planet. I just got done developing and scanning in all the rest of my New York City work. I had 75 rolls of film going into the new year that I had left to scan and develop. So I worked through that over the last few weeks, and I made a fair amount of work that I'm pleased with. Some work that I'm really excited about, but I really want to get back there as soon as possible. So looking at possibly doing a workshop with Peter Turnley in, I think, August. It's not guaranteed. It really depends on zine sales because it's an expensive workshop, and I have to get all that money around. I don't have that money sitting around. My personal creative bank account is completely broke right now. So if I can get the zine sales moving, if I could get my tail in gear and really work through some of these projects, then I might be out in New York in August. Otherwise, I'll probably be figuring out some other time to make it out to New York. So Jacob's been asking for the same thing for a while now, so I really do got to get out there as soon as possible. Sergio says, it's my two friends' first time moving out there, or moving out of their home, so it explores a lot of themes other than just the trip. That's exciting. Sounds like a great project, Sergio. Mike says, right now what I'm working on is a zine about the correlation between religion and farming in my area. Interesting. That sounds really unique and very interesting. I would absolutely love to see that. I know that I'm realizing that I'm saying that about everybody's zine. I didn't say that about Pete's. Pete, I would love to see it. Everyone, send me a link when you're done and your zine is ready. I would absolutely love to see these. But Mike, that sounds really, really interesting. And I'm sure there's a lot of ties and correlations. Suzanne, see you later. Good having you on here. Thanks for adding to the conversation. Mike says it's going to be centered around prayers and plows. Nice. I think there's a whole reaping and sowing and reaping. You know, there's all sorts of different crossover there. One of the big ones that I would love to do is I geek out about vineyards and about, you know, vines and just the whole idea of, you know, wine pressing and everything like that. Emily and I love going up to Traverse City, which is a big wine country here in Michigan, and just amazing wines up there, and really love going up there and just cataloging the whole, you know, wine area. And I'd love to do a whole project. There's actually a place called Chateau Chantel that Emily and I stayed at, I think 2 years ago now, and the owner of Chateau Chantel, the founder and everything like that, is actually a ex-priest. So he's a priest that fell in love with a nun, and they left the clergy so that way they could marry. And when they married, they continued on their faith and just poured it into this vineyard and this whole amazing bed and breakfast that they have, and they serve people so well, and it's just absolutely amazing. So really just tying the two, you know, faith and then just the whole aspect of winemaking and just the ton of biblical context to the vine and you know, the branch and the fruit and just everything in there. I think it would be a really fun project to go through, especially up at Chateau Chantel that has such a history and you know, founders that are really rooted in their faith. So I think it would be a really interesting thing. Jacob says, wow, throwing some shade. I watch your videos, but you know, you don't really make any now. That's amazing. I wish that Jacob, next time, I keep calling you Jake because my buddy that I work with is Jake. I call him Jacob all the time, but then I also call him Jake. So Sorry, Jacob. I don't mean to call you Jake. Jacob, next time I'm out in New York, we need to vlog the whole thing. Like, you guys need to see when it's just Jacob and I walking around. Oh my word, we just riff on each other so much. And I think it would make probably a pretty funny video. I have a lot of photos of you too that I have to send over. Some of you and Anna. So remind me to get those around and send those over to you. But anyway, I think that would be a pretty funny video. Jacob and I like to poke jabs at each other. Sergio says, I have a question. Paper, which weight is suggested for 64 pages staple bound zine? I don't want it to be too thick for staple binding. Weight of paper is one of those things to where I find weight of paper to be kind of difficult to remember. I'm no expert on it. In fact, what I'm going to suggest is to go into a local print shop and just feel some of the different papers in hand. Try them and see, and they'll be able to help you. If you go through a local print shop, they'll be able to help you decide what paper weight you want to go. If it's 64 pages, I would say you want to go with super thin paper. Not necessarily like rice paper or anything like that, but you're going to be at a standard weight paper or less. They have thinner papers. You don't want to go too thin, because then depending on whether it's a coated paper, if you go really thin, you probably want to go with the coated paper, so that way it holds the ink on the surface. Otherwise, you might get some bleeding issues. You might be able to see through, and it might really impede the whole print project. One of the things that I would say too, I want to make a video on this, is one of the big mistakes that a lot of people make when they go into a book project is they put too much into it. So another thing I would say, Sergio, I don't know what your project is. Maybe it demands 68 or 64 pages. But one of the things that I would suggest is really honing that work down. I would say take 33% out more than what you think you need to take out. That will, one, help you to lower the page count, but two, keep viewers engaged. When you have 64 pages, you better make sure that your storyline and the interest of your photos is amazing all the way through, because you will lose viewer interaction. And the worst thing that could happen is somebody's looking through your zine, gets halfway through, and just starts thumbing through the rest just to get done with it. So ask yourself, does that many images need to be in the zine for it to be a complete body of work? The issue is we look at so many monographs. We look at Elliot Erwitt books. We look at, Bruce Davidson books. We look at all this stuff, and we fail to remember that these things were shot over the course of 30, 40 years. So the breadth of work that they could choose from is so grand that they can have a very interesting concept running all the way through. If you shot it in, like you said, the couple of weeks, I'm not saying that it can't happen, and I'm not saying that it can't be interesting. I am challenging you in a way of looking at the project and going, maybe it shouldn't be 64, 68 pages, whatever it might end up being. 48 pages or less tends to be a really solid length for a zine. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's your creative vision, it's your creative output, and if you think that it fits, then it fits. I will say that I recently got a book called Drive-By Shootings, and it's a New York City cabbie who just photographed all the way through driving his cab, and there's some really great images in there. But not to critique the work, but from my perspective, there's a lot of junk in there, a lot of stuff that should have hit the cutting room floor. And I would say that the book is about this thick. It's a standard like little trade back book, but it's pretty thick, and he has a multitude of images on each page. A couple pages are full page spreads, but for the most part, it's a lot of images. And I will say that I got very bored with the book, and I would have actually thought that he was a much better photographer if he would have just chose 48 solid images and presented me that book versus the 250 images that he thought he needed to put in there. I don't need to see a complete recollection of the trip. I don't need to see a complete recollection of, anyway, I'm beating a dead horse, I feel. But just keep that in mind as you're working through this project. There's either one, you could go with a thinner paper stock and go with a coated paper to make sure that the ink sits on the surface, or two, you could I always hate this terminology. People say kill some babies. Just some of those images that you're holding on to but don't serve the project well, send them off. It doesn't mean you need to cut them out of something altogether. They could go into a completely different project, but it's worth considering. John says, gotta run, have dinner at my parents'. See you, buddy. Good seeing you. I've missed these, look forward to having more. I think I will try and make more of these happen. Even if we don't do a 2-Minute Tuesday type series, I think these types of conversations where we just kind of let them roll and see where they go, I absolutely love them. So if you guys enjoy them, I enjoy them, and I think we'll make more happen. I'll probably be on here for another 5 minutes, and then I'm going to jump off and see what Emily's up to. Mike says, Nick, I think that's a Hallmark movie you're remembering. I'm trying to remember what the reference was of the movie. It does sound okay. You were talking about the Yes Man. It does sound like a Hallmark movie. I'm pretty sure it's Yes Man, with Jim Carrey. It does sound like a Hallmark movie. Let's see here. Hey Nick, what's up? What is the best C41 kit? Getting unfortunately, I have never. Not unfortunately, I really have no desire to develop my own C41, but unfortunately, I can't help you with that setup. So, Pruno says Tetanol. So you know, there's a couple other ideas coming out, but I don't have any experience with it, so I'm not going to try and BS something and give you an answer. So, no, the priest story. Oh. That does sound like a Hallmark movie. A priest and a nun leave the leave the clergy to marry and open up a bed and breakfast. That literally, why have they not made a Hallmark story after that? That's amazing. You may have given me an idea for my first feature film. All right. LOL, sorry, but now that Casey doesn't vlog anymore, it's just not cool anymore. Funny. Kind of true, I guess. Casey doesn't vlog anymore? I guess that makes sense as to why I haven't seen any of his videos up. There it is, yes. All right, so I'll give you guys another 5 minutes. If you have any last minute questions, I can answer in. Otherwise, I'm gonna kick off here, and I have a design project that I still have to do tonight too. I didn't even look at the time. It's only 7:45. I still got, the night is still young. I only have to be up at 5:30 in the morning. Let's see here. Sergio says, you're totally right. I agree the number of pages is too high, but at the same time, it's a struggle to cut down images we love. I'm working on it. The road trip was 50 days, though, and 4,000 miles. Thanks. Totally. You know, in pull in some other people. Pull in some other people to say, you know, when looking at this project, you know, build an initial design and then have them go through it. Somebody in the community that you admire, anything like that. Somebody that has strong work that you feel like could really voice into the whole setup. And then send them the project and go, do you mind giving this a look and letting me know, is there any of these images that just don't fit? And let them be honest with you. Don't take offense to it. They want the best interest of your zine and of your project. You know, they have it at heart. So at least if they're you know, a solid person. But Pete says, sleep is overrated. That's how I thought in 2017. Come 2018 with the new position, it became like, no, sleep is a necessity. But I definitely understand what you mean. I tend to get much more creative the later in the evening it goes. I think there's something to sleep deprivation that really, really drives the creative, you know, mystique. All right. Last call for any other comments. Otherwise, thank you guys for jumping on here. If there's maybe one more question or anything like that that comes in, I could give you an answer. Otherwise, I don't know, 30 seconds here. If nothing shows up, I'm gonna get jumping off and go off the rest of my evening. See you, Jacob. Peace. See ya. Sayonara. Au revoir. DM me on Instagram. Jacob says. Why don't you want me to DM you on Instagram, dude? Whatever. So glad you're back, man. Head up, feet forward. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. I certainly will. Yes, I have a first edition, and I'm sending it to friends for brutal feedback is the next step. That's amazing. Thanks a lot. Great work. Been a subscriber for a while. Thanks, Sergio. I really appreciate it. And once again, don't take any of what I was saying as any kind of attacks. I definitely understand. And I look back at specifically my Sketches of Light zine, and I think I probably put too much work in there. That I probably could have cut some stuff out, and the project could have been a little bit more strong. But at the same time, it's a time capsule to that part of my life. So again, whatever goes out, and then you just move forward. So Bruno says, thank you for this, Nick. It was a pleasure to speak with you folks. Greetings from Dublin. Hey, that's amazing. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you guys. Looks like we're all done with any questions, so I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and be looking out for some upcoming videos. I recorded a couple today. Hopefully they turned out. Hopefully I don't have to re-record this thing a 5th time. But I think we have the good bare bones for it, so I'll be working on that throughout the week. It's a longer video. It's the DSLR scanning video, so a little bit more moving parts to it, but I'm going to try and get it out as soon as possible, as well as another video talking about the zines that are going out to the Patreon crowd. So if you go over to patreon.com/NickExposed, you could check out the zine level. What I was sharing earlier, if you jumped on later on in the video, is there's some special limited edition zines going out to people who are in the Patreon crowd that are at that level higher. So if you want to be in on that, jump over there. You need to be signed up by the end of January to take advantage of the February zine that's going out specifically to the Patreon crowd. So if you have any questions on that, hit me up over on Instagram or down in the comments after this video post, probably over on Instagram. That'll be the best place. But thank you guys. I love you guys. And looked at your Sketches of the Light zine today. Still one of my favorites. Well, thank you. That's encouraging. But thank you guys. I will talk to you guys later.